So the time is, it's almost midday, and I've got until 1:30, which is the point at which I need to go back and work on my sourdough. But what we're going to do, we're going to try in the next hour and a half to get the supers on my beehives. So the first thing we've got to do is go over to my container. I've got a little lock-up container just a few hundred yards away, but because we're going to be carrying quite a bit, we do need to take the car. Got to take the trailer off, go and pick up our supers, you know, the part of our beehive that goes above the brood box. I'll explain all that to you while we're doing it. And we've got to put a load of foundation frames in there and then get them up on our beehive and do a bit of an inspection at the same time, because it's warmed up a little bit and we should be fine to go in the hive. So my son and I, Rockus, who's going to help, are going to go and get those, come back, put them all together, and then go up to the hives. Do you want to clip that one, Rock? Because one of the things about beekeeping is you're going to need lots of extra bits and bobs, and in an ideal world, somewhere to store them. So at the moment, I personally own 2 hives and all of the stuff that comes with hives, 2 sets. But really, every beekeeper will tell you that you need a spare hive, and you're going to fill that spare hive with bees, and then you need another spare hive, and it goes on and on and on. So really, I need a few extra hives, because already this year I would have been able to fill a third one with a swarm that happened locally that I could have gone and collected, but I had nowhere to put them. And it's still very, very early in the year. So one of the things on my list is to get hold of some spare hives. So anyway, this is what I've got. And these here are frames, partially constructed. They need a little bit of work, which we'll do shortly. This is a super, what's called a super. And these are frames. This here is a super frame. A frame that is the same size as your super. It sits in there. And then this here is a brood box frame. It's a frame the same size as my brood box. Now the brood is what we call the cluster of eggs and larvae that the queen lays. That's the brood. So they live in the brood box, and that is a slightly bigger box, and that really is the nucleus of your hive. That is the center of your hive in terms of the bee's life. You know, that's where all of the new bees are going to be laid into eggs and then larvae and then hatches actual bees, and that's where that all happens. And then above that you place your supers, which are these smaller boxes, and then in between the two you use this, which is called a queen excluder. Now the queen is a very, very specific size, or rather she's slightly bigger than the rest of the bees. All the other bees can fit through here. All of your worker bees, all your female worker bees can fit through there, and they can move up from the brood box into the super, but the queen cannot. Really important that, because what it means is the queen isn't going to come up here and start laying eggs. So this is where we're capturing our honey. This is where we're going to be harvesting our honey from, is the brood box, the super box above the brood box. Our colonies are doing really well, and they're starting to fill those brood boxes up. So if we're not careful, they'll decide to swarm. You know, we've run out of space here. We're going really well. We can split in 2 and go and find somewhere else. We want to give them more space for stores. So we're going to add these brood boxes, and when we do that, we have them with frames of foundation. So all this is wax on a wire frame that the bees can use to give them a head start, basically, rather than wasting their energy or using their energy to make wax, because they can spend quite a lot of energy making wax, and that's energy that they could spend on other things like collecting stores and making honey, which is what we want. So we give them that head start. So this is one that's got all the frames made up. Now, I was in a bit of a predicament when I captured my wild bees, the ones that were in that roof. I didn't have enough foundation for the large frames. So in my large brood box up there, one of them, we've actually got some smaller foundation frames. So what that means is some of the frames that come out of this box I don't have. They're being used in the brood box. So we're going to have to kind of jiggle that around. Not sure how we're going to do it. But the first thing we're going to do, me and my son, is we're going to make up all these loose frames. So Ruckus, I'll show you and everyone at home at the same time. Basically, each frame is made up of one of these pieces, the bar that goes along the top. You see that? Two sides. Now it doesn't matter what you use, which size side, so long as they're the same. So you see this would make a frame, and that would make a frame. And then the slits all go around the inside, because that's where our foundation sits. And then at the bottom, so if you do this one while I do this one, at the bottom you need two of these, and you can work out where that goes, I suspect. It's a bit of a squeeze, but it will go. And we've got a little hammer if you need it, which I do, just to tap it home. So that's one more made up. How are you doing there, son? So just make sure that they all line up, look, at the edges. And if you need to, you can always go like that and tap. Yeah? So we're just going to make up the rest of these frames now. So there you go, that's all of our frames made up with foundation in. And you can see that they just sit inside the frames there. They sit inside the boxes. And then the bees, they draw this out into the comb that they want. So the last thing I need to do now is just run around the edge with some pins. We put some panel pins in to hold everything in place. So once we've done that, then we'll be going up to the hives. Now, the first thing I need to do though is go and start lunch. So I'm going to have a quick pause now and I'll catch up with you guys when I'm up at the hives in a bit. I'm on my way up to the bees now. Got my smoker lit, and I'm not sure, it's a lovely day insofar as the sun, but it's actually quite cool, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to do insofar as actually going through the bees and, you know, pulling the frames out and having a look, because the last thing I want to do is cause them a problem by reducing the temperature in their hive, which is really, really critical. The best way of going about making that decision is actually letting the bees tell me, and when we get there we'll just see how active they are, and if the actual hive is super active and they're all flying around and, like I say, lots and lots of activity and leaving the hive, then we're going to be fine to open it up. But if they're a little bit less busy, a little bit more lethargic, then we might have to just leave them be. No pun intended. Just another really important thing I wanted to say as well. I am a beginner beekeeper. So, you know, I'm not trying to give anyone else advice. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. And by all means, you know, if I'm doing something wrong, feel free to tell me. They seem busy enough. Two really active hives. Look, and if you watch, you can actually spot them going in with all that they've been collecting. So this is the first set of bees that I got home, and these are the guys that were in that roof. So they've still got plenty of space actually, and I might even leave the super off of this one because they've still got lots and lots of this that they haven't even drawn out yet. So they've got lots of space to grow into. We don't need to worry about putting a super on here yet. But there's lots and lots, I don't know if you can see, lots and lots of larvae and brood. So, you know, I'm quite happy that they're getting on just fine. but I don't think that I'm going to be increasing the size of their home just yet, because it's just going to be more for them to keep warm and that kind of thing. So I think we'll leave them be exactly as they are. And now we'll have a look over here. So these are the bees that... So this next hive is the bees that I've had for a little while, that I've been waiting to get home. And they look even busier. This has got a super on it, but the super that we've got here was only used as a home for the feeder. Oh my goodness. If ever there was a sign that we needed more space, I would say that's it, wouldn't you? Goodness me. Goodness me. So this is going to be well and truly stuck in position. So they've formed more brood up here. Look, they're trying to expand up into this space. There we go. So it looks to me like I'm going to be asking the question to some people I know who are far more experienced than me, but they look like queen cells to me, which means these guys are planning on swarming. So that's going to be the next thing I need to worry about. Alan, I'm talking to you. Are those queen cells? Am I about to have a swarm? Do I need to worry? But I might be wrong. I might be mistaken. But either way, we're just going to reduce this comb ever so slightly. And I'm really sorry, girls, to have wasted your effort on that bit of comb, but I'll make it all worth your while, because I will give you some additional... Let me just get this on a sec. And I will swap all that comb that you've just lost . And I will swap all that comb that you've just lost. And like I say, I will swap all that comb. I'll swap all that comb that you've just lost for all this foundation wax that you can now draw out. There you go. That's the best deal I can do for you. Now there's a few things I got a bit panicked, and I'm not really sure what the right thing to do is. I'm not sure whether I'm supposed to put that what I think is called the crown board, the board with a hole in it, underneath the queen excluder, or if I'm supposed to do away with that. But I will. I'll get some. I'll double check that in a second. And I can always come up in a day or so and remove it if I need to. As I said, don't be following me for advice. Be following me if you want to see someone learning from their own mistakes. So Yeah, there you go. And got my first bit of honey harvested from my own bees. Just this tiny little bit we're going to take down to the house. So yeah, but they're getting on with it, and they're super busy, super active, and they're getting a little bit agitated now, so I shall leave them to it. We're off now, girls. Thank you ever so much. We'll leave them to it now. So I've got a few bees all over me still. It's my first ever go at going in the hive without gloves on. So overall, quite happy. Like I say, I opened it up and I got a bit panicked because I didn't really know what I was looking at. So I think the best thing to do is to say, stay tuned, because I will follow up this video with another one in the next few days, letting you know all the mistakes that I just made and how I made them, why I made them, what you should do differently, but also just answering a few questions. I don't know if you could see those when I showed the frame to the camera and I said I think these are queen cells. There was some much bigger cells. The cells are each, you know, the hexagon in the comb, in the honeycomb that we would normally see. These holes here, so each of those holes is a cell that once it's got brood in, you know, you call it a cell, and then they lay the eggs in there, and then at a certain stage, after they fed them, they cap them, and they cap them obviously by putting a cap over the top of the cell. And there were some capped cells there that were like protruding, like they stick out a bit, and I think they might have been queen cells, and due to the number of them, I would suggest that they are queen swarming cells, as in the colony is preparing to swarm, to split in two, and if that happens I'll lose a lot of my bees. So there's quite a lot I need to think about and do and plan and prepare and check if that's the case. But the first thing I need to do is check whether or not that is the case. So I'm going to stop recording and start sending some pictures to some beekeeper friends and see where we go. So anyway, that's going to wrap this one up. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll speak to you really soon. Cheers.